Today's podcast is sponsored by Microsoft's new podcast, Security Unlocked. You can find links down in the description below, and you can find somebody who ruins me and every day.
I don't complete you.
No,
No.
you subvert.
I subvert you. It's sort of like completing you.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, before this podcast, I had the nice little like angel sitting here, like, it's gonna be a good day, and then you're over here, like, let's just ruin this thing.
Right.
Oh, this is big news. Very big news. Microsoft is removing the worst thing in Windows.
The worst thing in Windows.
The
The
worst
advertising, the privacy invasions,
Nope.
What is it, Brad?
Arrow Shake.
Wait, they're getting rid of Arrow Shake?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because most people encounter it by mistake and they're like, what the hell just happened?
At least I think they're getting rid of it. They turned it off by default in the latest Insider build. And I can't imagine that you would intentionally go in there and change that registry key value.
Not to mention Arrow Shake, right? I mean, is 2 generations old from like a UI perspective, like Arrow, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anybody intentionally used that feature. It was more of like, where'd all my windows go? So
That actually makes sense to me.
yeah, we're gonna. 2020 has been bad, but now it has totally redeemed itself. Just
Are they going to bring back widgets, or do they call them gadgets? What was that thing in the sidebar?
oh yeah, I think they were gadgets.
Gadgets, probably, because they had to have a different name than other stuff or whatever.
Didn't Apple call their thing like widgets or something when they had that little like peg? Remember that interface you used to be able to like flip to, and it was like a pegboard, and you could put little things on it like widgets.
Right.
SXM7 launch was scrubbed, so it will fly another day. I know we were all desperately waiting for that one.
Didn't even know they were doing something today, actually.
Well, good news, Paul. There's another one tomorrow from ULA, United Launch Alliance. They're going to be, I think it's on a Delta Heavy, which that would be like the one to go watch, because I think that's the one that could give you like cardiac arrest if you're not paying attention, like you're too close.
Right. You don't want to be in 1 mile of this.
This is a big boy.
Is the world ending?
Yeah, potentially.
Yes, but not from this.
No, but I guess maybe. Never mind. Anyways, they also rolled out in that same release that they made the world a better place. The emulation for ARM64 on Surface Pro X and whatever the new one is called, which is kind of a big deal. Kind of.
Yeah. I'm going to test this today. I haven't yet. I just started. Actually, I should have gotten this going earlier. I got the machine kind of charged up that I have that will work with it. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to require fairly high-end specs, meaning basically machines released this past year, I would say. Couple of prerequisites you're going to want to download that Microsoft has links to. And the big question is going to be performance, as it always is. But yeah, this is a big deal.
Yeah, it is. I think the performance is going to be big. There was some minor compatibility issues. Again, haven't looked into it because it's only 12 hours old at this point. But there were some things like with Docker and some of those like low-level applications having some issues with the emulation. So keep that in mind if you're looking to change your pair of pants while you're... Nothing.
I got nothing.
How do you feel about Flight Sim this summer? Not on the old Xbox, only on the new?
Yeah, and I feel like it not being on Xbox One is news, right?
I think so. Like, to me, and I think there might be one other game, but this is like the first one that I can recall that they're like explicitly saying, like, if you have the old Xbox, you're not playing this.
I mean, given the graphical requirements of Flight Simulator on a PC, maybe this makes sense from that perspective. I mean, they got to do something at some point to differentiate these consoles. Next summer, I don't have any opinions on the time frame. I guess I never really thought. I guess I sort of expected first half of next year, but
yeah,
that's okay. Better than November.
or the fall. Which actually kind of raises an interesting point. I don't think they'll do this, but I think they should, but I don't think they will. I think that they should nuke Halo Infinite for the old consoles.
Yeah, I do too, actually. Yep. Especially they kind of made the argument in this most recent post where they were talking about all the graphical changes they made and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only reason they didn't is maybe that it just would have been one step too far from a complaining perspective or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, given that it's shipping holiday next year, I agree with you. I mean, I guess who knows? It could still happen. Although
Yeah.
no, I guess it couldn't. Have they said explicitly Xbox One? I guess they'd have to
They
go back and
had.
look.
I mean, they had prior to this launch, but they.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no inside information if they're going to do it either way. But it would go. I agree with you. Pretty sour right now, especially when you can't buy a console unless you you snipe one from an online retailer. It might be a little less of a blow if they say this in July when you can actually go buy one or something. But
You know what they should do is whatever that piece of crap they showed us back in July, they should ship that on Xbox One and be like, if you want the new graphics, get a new console. Too much?
also, if you're on a submarine, we have the version of Halo Infinite for you.
The 360 version that plays offline. It's nice.
Yeah, that would be. I think it's the right move, but I don't think they have kind of like the coconuts to come out and
I know.
and do that. Like, can you imagine the amount of resources that would free up for them?
Well, this thing has also been in development for years, and they
Right.
have probably almost certainly have been specifically targeting the Xbox One as the baseline. So, if you could almost imagine it triggering another delay. Actually, if you think about it, I don't know, but they're gonna have to support this thing for years to come. I mean, yeah, I see both sides of it. I understand why they're not doing it, but.
The good news is, if you want to play some new Halo, you can go download Fortnite.
I looked at this. I don't know if you saw the original announcement. It's not. They seem to imply you have to pay for this.
I think it is. I think it's like a skin pack you got to download.
Yeah, and that's what you're right. It is. And so I mean, I installed Fortnite at some point on this new console, and I just went to look at it, see how much it cost, and they have something called V-Bucks, which is like whatever. And I guess I had some V-Bucks from something. I don't know. Maybe they gave you some when you install it or something, because I didn't have to pay for it. But you do have to go through a process where you spend. What does V stand for? Virtual or something? Virtual bucks.
Very real dollar. I don't know.
Yeah, you get there's other stuff too. You get like one of the weapons from Halo and a little mini version of the Warthog. So you drive around on it like you're in a kid's driving toy. It's cute.
That's the unnamed title that contributed significantly to the bottom line of the Xbox org for like 8 or 9 earnings statements.
Warthog?
No, the Fortnite.
I know.
You people see what I put up with every day.
I don't know. I've been married for 30 years. Can you imagine what that woman's life is like? Anyway. Yes.
What else? There were some other things they announced too, I thought, but those were kind of the big ones. The flight sim is the one that I'm looking for, mostly because I'm curious to see how the Series X performs at 4K versus my PC upstairs, which is still fairly high end compared.
Yeah, and if you didn't, you should watch the video they have that accompanies this announcement, because there's some information in the video that actually isn't in the post. And like you mentioned, 4K, for example, it is going to be 4K on the Xbox Series X, I guess we should assume, and it's going to have some level of graphical detail that you can configure or whatever. I bet it's pretty good. I bet it looks pretty good on the Xbox Series X at least.
I bet it is. Other things that are pretty good are this new podcast called Security Unlocked with your friends from Microsoft. Actually, they're security evangelists Nick and Natalia, where they take a closer look at the latest innovations in threat intelligence, security research, data science, with a special focus on demystifying artificial intelligence and machine learning. Hit the subscribe link down in the description below and take a listen.
So, Brad, I've got bad news.
This will probably make me happy. Go on.
I'm retiring. No,
good. Yes.
It's like the confetti falls.
The
balloons, literally waiting for this day.
Mm-hmm.
No,
helium's getting a little low on them, but
my state has done a 3-week rollback. Says no more restaurants and
So what's the trapdoor going to do? Like, that's your.
It's going to be delivery or pickup.
Mm.
But it's only for 3 weeks.
No, inside. So what? That puts you to like January 1.
January 4. But yeah, it literally I think designed to get past the holidays, right? When people will be gathering together. I mean, and there's nothing. I mean, obviously, no one can do anything about people in like at home, but
Right.
I get it. I don't. There's no good. The problem I have with this kind of thing is like all these people are, the people who are like kind of the anti-masker types are freaking out about their freedoms and whatever and blah blah blah, and you're hurting small businesses and it's like, guys, nobody wants to do this. It's just, we don't have any more hospital beds. At some point you have to kind of put the brakes on. I'm just glad it's only for 3 weeks. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the key right there. Is it just for 3 weeks?
Well, I bet it will be, honestly. Like, remember when we originally shut down, it was going to be for 2 weeks, and then 9 months went by. And then,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we didn't know what the hell was going on last time. Like this time, I think they have a firmer understanding of what the pandemic is and what it's like, and we know what the death rates are and blah blah blah. And I think we're better equipped, even though it's worse. I mean, as far as outbreaks, like I think we're actually better equipped to handle it. Psychologically, I don't think we're better equipped to handle it, but I guess we'll see.
Nope. But since we're going to have more free time, maybe, I don't know, Disney is going all in on Star Wars. This has got to make you potentially very happy.
Yeah.
I marginally, it's like, Like I still haven't even watched the Mandalorian. I've watched, I think, 2 episodes of it.
Oh, you should watch that. It's the first couple of episodes are frankly kind of terrible, very slow moving. The first season, I honestly overall wasn't that great. Like it just kind of meanders, but they introduced that Baby Yoda character, and that stuff is fantastic. Like your kid and your wife will love it. Like I'm seriously, like just those scenes with the kid, awesome. So I've been waiting on season 2 for it to complete, which I think it just did. So I'll just binge watch the whole thing now. But yeah, I'll hold off and see what those shows look like for now. But like. As I've been discussing with my wife, like we're going to be HBO Max subscribers soon because there's a bunch of stuff happening there. But by the way, it's not just Star Wars. They're going to have 10 Marvel series, 15 Pixar series, 15 Disney and Pixar like feature length films. Not all in 2021. I think this is over a couple of years, but they have big expansion plans.
What I imagine here is in that industry, what happens is people come up with a show or whatever, then they pitch it to the executives, and then they have a meeting about it, and then they decide which ones they're going to buy and how many seasons. I just imagine they're in the Star Wars meeting, and whatever the guy just opens the door, goes, "Yeah, we're taking them all," and then just shuts the door and just keeps going.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
His way.
Right. See, I had a similar thought. It was like this guy walks in and he goes, "Hey, remember in the first Star Wars movie, there were these 2 stormtroopers, and one of them shot Princess Leia, and then the other one got shot by Princess Leia?" And they're like, "Yeah." And like, I want to make a series about those 2 guys. And they're like, "Yep, there you go." Like there is nothing in the Star Wars universe that has happened that can't be turned into a TV series.
Pretty much. So
yeah.
Clearly these things have been the wheels have been moving for a little bit on this stuff, because some of them are coming out. I don't know if next year, but 2022 is when it looked like it started to come out. So,
yep, yeah, that's interesting. I feel like someone had asked me this morning about the fate of theaters because of what's going on with the pandemic and because of Warner Brothers rolling out pictures to HBO Max and everything. This is a lot like the work from home thing. I think the pandemic has accelerated trends that were already happening.
Yeah,
people
I agree.
have theater setups or big screens at least, and they can watch movies at home without people in front of them talking on their phones and all that stuff. And I don't think theaters go away. It's not as bad as like vinyl or something like that. But I mean, there's always going to be a group of people that does prefer that experience, and that's great, and God love them. But I think there'll be fewer theaters. Maybe there'll be fewer nicer theaters, like those type where you get food service and everything. And then I don't know about you, but I probably end up in a theater once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
And that was I think actually, when was this? Over the winter last year, my wife and I went to a movie, and we did a thing. You get dinner and drinks and everything. And we're like, you know what? This isn't a horrible experience. Like we could do this every once in a while, like we had started going back to concerts and everything. We have really good timing, when it comes to the pandemic. We're going to start doing all this stuff that requires us to be in rooms with other people. And then that gets taken away. But anyway, I have always said this. I've said this for years. Like, rather than go to a theater, new Star Wars movie comes out, I would pay $30.
Oh yeah, to watch it. Yep.
I can pause it but not rewind it, right? And I would just gather a group of people. We watch it together in front of some great screen with a good system. And honestly, it's not even that expensive, the way it's gone. So great.
Yeah, I think the theater experience is going to be more of like the boutique kind of experience going long term from now. Like you might have one in your town sort of thing, sort of like the drive-in theaters kind of went away, but there's still that one that hangs around. You can still go for the nostalgia but
There might be one in the entire eastern half of Pennsylvania, basically. I'm not really sure, but there's at least, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, everybody has their own thing. I would probably, well, I don't even know. Like I was about to say, I'd probably go to them more. Like if I could honestly just take my own pair of headphones and like listen to it. Because the thing that annoys me is we would go to one and then there's somebody talking and like you just paid like $60 to watch a movie. And then it's like, you're really going to be sitting here yapping. And then
a couple summers ago, my sister-in-law and her kids visited, and some group of 8 of us or something went to a movie. So it's me and my wife and her and maybe one other adult and a bunch of kids. And of course, if you go to these fancy cinemas, it's kind of like going to a theater used to be in Europe. Like if you just went to a normal movie in Europe like 10, 20 years ago, you actually got a seat assignment, right? In the United States, you just get a ticket, you go sit wherever you want. So when you go to these like fancy theaters, of course, you get like seat assignments. So we had like basically most of an entire row to ourselves. And like we go through the theater and there's like an older couple sitting there with some teenagers or whatever. And we're like, you're in our seats. And it's like, well, can't you just go sit somewhere else? And it's like, yeah, we can. But then someone's going to come in and tell us we're in their seats. Like, you can't, like, Pennsylvania. It's America first. I don't know. I don't get it.
they also they're bringing some more stuff to the PC Game Pass too. For those who are playing on there, the EA is coming. The EA, just like my daughter got in the car, said the Microsoft. EA Play coming on December 15th, and then they've also, which I actually think is a pretty good get. They're getting Among Us, which is a hugely popular game that exploded overnight. Is also coming to that. So.
Yeah, I would say this month has been very notable for Xbox Game Pass in general, and then of course it hits across console, PC, and whatever the cloud streaming thing is called. But at the beginning of the month, they always announce some selection of games that will be over the first half of the month, and then toward the middle they do the second half. They announced 15 games for December 1st through whatever. Last night they announced 11 more. And those games only go through like the 17th or 18th of the month. Now, I don't think, the week of Christmas, whatever, they're probably not going to release more games. But I mean, this has been like, I believe, aside from the very first month ever, I believe this month has already been the biggest month ever in the history of Xbox Game Pass, just for new games being added to the service. Not including EA Play, by the way.
So curious, because you're a little bit more entrenched in this, and you'll see where I'm going in a second with this. But to me, what Microsoft is doing with Game Pass feels a bit like the early 2000s, where they were super aggressive and willing to take some loss potentially to really just entrench themselves in a market, because Microsoft they are spending just an astronomical amount of money to really propel Game Pass into something, regardless of what its cash flow is doing currently.
Yeah, I think there are two sides to Game Pass. One is the Microsoft Studio stuff where they put everything in Game Pass day one. So, for example, Flight Simulator for console will be available day one on Game Pass. Smart, and that's nice. I mean, that kind of creates like a built-in value for the whole thing. It's cool. But the one thing they keep talking about is, third-party game makers have come to them and said, this actually really works out financially, because, and you can think about this as tied to that cinema conversation, because when you think about how movies are released, is like there are different windows, and that those windows have adjusted over time, right? But cinema, and back in the day, like in the 80s, like you'd go cinema, and then years later it would go to HBO or something, and then years later it would go to cable, and then eventually regular TV. Game releases also have release windows when you think about it, and some AAA titles may not want to be on Game Pass like on day one, but when a year goes by. Unless it's one of those games like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed, where they don't want you thinking about the old game, they want you to buy the new one. But, for a lot of games, like this is like a second life, and they do get paid. It's not like it's free; like they get paid, obviously. So, I think this could work out like where some movies actually make more money. In this case, some games make more money on these back end parts of the window than on the front end big release part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for movies, that would be like international releases, which now are day and date, or cable releases, or digital media releases, whatever it is. So like I fully expect there will be games. We'll hear about games with like, we actually made more from Game Pass than we did just releasing it generally. It's a win-win.
We will see. I don't disagree with that, though. I mean, the longevity of Game Pass, it feels like it's going to be here for the long run. Just the way Microsoft
think this is Xbox.
Yeah.
This plus cloud, cloud with the cloud streaming, obviously. I think this is it. I don't remember this. It doesn't matter who the site is. I don't mean to call anybody out, but somebody had quoted the Xbox CTO or CFO. I don't remember, but someone involved with the Xbox org at Microsoft, and they misquoted him. And they were saying like consoles are still the foundation and the cornerstone of the Xbox business. And I went and looked at what he actually said, and that's not what he said. What he really said, they were kind of paraphrasing it, and they misinterpreted what he said. Consoles used to be the whole puzzle. Now they're only a piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Right, there you go. That's the understanding we all have. Mm-hmm. So Microsoft has this kind of multi-tiered model for Xbox now, which I think makes tons of sense, but it positions them for the future. And I think the future is just subscription services and cloud streaming.
I think it kind of has to be. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yes, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is. The way you can have a lot more fun, actually just get a lot smarter, is to take a listen to the new podcast from Microsoft called Security Unlocked. You can check out the links in the description below or go to aka.ms/securityunlocked.
I looked up That's the Way It Is song, and the first thing that came up is Celine Dion. That's not who it was.